Hello YouTube! In this episode of Shadow Reviews, I'm going to be reviewing issue 1 of Dark Knight's Death Metal. I really gotta say that this is a comic that I truly enjoy, and I really do like it. This comic book is badass, and it is badass in every sense of the word. Before the story begins, we get a prologue with Sergeant Rock, basically giving the typical inspirational speech to convince his troops to fight. Before the story begins, we get a prologue with Sergeant Rock, basically giving the typical inspirational speech to convince his troops to fight. So anyways, after Sergeant Rock gives his speech, we get the main story, and in Dark Knight's Death Metal, each issue is broken up into chapters. This issue is composed of 4 chapters if you don't count this speech from Sergeant Rock as a prologue, which it is. Chapter 1, titled It All Matters, starts with Wonder Woman using a chainsaw in a artificially man-made hell that was constructed over Themyscira. And the author pretty much actually has to say that yes, this is the real DCU, or yes, this is actually happening on Earth Prime. Swamp Thing comes in to tell Wonder Woman that another prisoner is being brought in. As it turns out, Wonder Woman and Swamp Thing have been acting as the wardens for a prison holding various villains within the DC universe. As Wonder Woman and Swamp Thing make their way through this prison that was built over Paradise Island, we actually find out that the new incarnation of the Dark Knights have already taken over the world at this point. And it's here where we are introduced to 3 of the members of the new incarnation of the Dark Knights: Batmage, Beyonder, and Besaurus Rex. Wonder Woman gets a bit uppity with these 3, and then Besaurus Rex tells her to fall in line or her sisters will be screaming in the pit. So anyways, then this mysterious hooded prisoner, to which the Dark Knights want Wonder Woman to keep locked up, tells her to remember, and this actually strikes a chord with her, and she recognizes who he is. And that revelation brings Chapter 1 to an end. Chapter 2, titled Dead Bats, begins with a meeting of the second iteration of the Dark Knights. In this chapter, we meet this, I'd say, Batman Cthulhu hybrid named Baphomet. I think that's what he's called. And this Batman Darkseid hybrid called Darkfather, who had captured both Mr. Miracle and Superman. And when he's giving his report, he says that Superman is succumbing to the bits of anti-life that I can only assume he introduced into Superman's body. Batman Who Laughs reports on on the latest news on Perpetua, which is that during her rampage, she did rip apart a very good chunk of the multiverse, and that she had currently just destroyed Earth 22. As the Batman Who Laughs is going on, suddenly Wonder Woman can hear the voice of the Batman from her Earth in her head. When she asks how this is possible, Batman explains that he had Martian Manhunter set up a psychic link between the two of them. And after a mental back and forth with the Prime Earth Batman, the Batman Who Laughs notices that something's off with Wonder Woman and figures out that she's actually keeping something from him and asks what it is. When suddenly an arrow is shot directly at the Batman Who Laughs. The man who fired the arrow was the Batman of Earth Prime. After a back and forth with the Batman Who Laughs, Batman is now forced to fight some new recruits to the Dark Knights. A Batman Plastic Man hybrid, a Batman Etrigan hybrid, a Batman Clayface hybrid, Batman Deathstroke hybrid, Batman Scarecrow hybrid. Wonder Woman tries to join in the fight, but is then essentially brought down by Batmage. The Batman Who Laughs then confronts the Prime Earth Batman and asks him if there's anything he has to say to the soldiers from the Revolutionary War who are buried beneath the ground they're standing on. And the Batman of Earth Prime only has one word: rise, as he activates his Black Lantern ring to resurrect them as zombies. Named the Dead Bats, they're Batman's own personal army of the living dead. And that's one of the reasons as to why this comic made Batman into such a goddamn badass. it's more than just a costume change. I mean, they literally made Batman the Grim Reaper. I mean, Scythe? Check. Badass appearance? Check. Power over life and death? Check. So, anyways, then Batman orders the Dead Bats to attack the Dark Knights, which they do. As Batman leaves on a new, more badass bat cycle, he leaves the resurrected Jonah Hex, who was also buried under the soil, in charge to finish this fight, i.e., eliminate as many of the Dark Knights as possible. Meanwhile, in deep space, on a planet made out of living bone, Lobo was actually hired to mine through it and retrieve a box. His employer doesn't tell him what's in the box, just that it's the key to everything right now. Bringing Chapter 2, Dead Bats, to a close. Chapter 3, titled Power Chords, starts with Wonder Woman in the man-made hell that was built over her home, with Swamp Thing, as she goes to speak to the newest prisoner that the Dark Knights had brought in. And it's Wally West, aka Kid Flash, who actually in the Flash Forward miniseries was infused with crisis energy. Wally then explains everything to Wonder Woman about Perpetua, how she gets her powers from crisis energy, how she wants to create a multiverse with no memory, and everything with Lex Luthor having worked for her until the Batman Who Laughs took his place. The Batman Who Laughs walks in and reveals that the plan is to create an anti-crisis. Wonder Woman tells Wally to stay back, and then Wonder Woman kills the Batman Who Laughs with her newest weapon, the Chainsaw of Truth, bringing Chapter 3 to a close. Which brings us to Chapter 4, titled The Chainsaw of Truth, which starts with the Batmage entering Castle Bat, telling the twisted versions of the Robins that it's time to enact the true plan. He presses a button, and a door opens up, revealing the body of the final Bruce Wayne. The comic then ends with Sergeant Rock still using the fast food metaphor to motivate his troops, as Batman then appears behind him and grabs him and essentially drags him out of the base as it's under attack. saying this is the last fight and that all the heroes are gonna band together. And that was Dark Knight's Death Metal. I gotta say, it was a really good read. I enjoyed it. Batman was even more of a badass than he usually is. I just gotta say, it is really awesome. I give it 10 out of 10 stars. And I'm gonna end this review by saying that this is the first issue of an amazing miniseries, and you all should check it out.